Street curbs are often used by cities in order to regulate parking, where red means don't even think about it, yellow means unloading only, and white means to parallel park your little heart out. But this peculiar symbol, a small blue stripe, has been popping up on street curbs across the country, from Texas to New York. It's called the Safe Harbor Initiative, and according to the San Antonio Express of September 17, 2015, it encourages citizens to show public support for law enforcement. On September 9th, campaign creator Anthony Velichko asked his Facebook friends to spray paint a small blue stripe on their street curb and then to share the post. It reads, "To all law enforcement who see this symbol, know the residents of this home appreciate your service. Know that when you enter this neighborhood, you are not without backup." As of this year, Velichko's post has garnered over 86,000 shares. Over the past year, explains the Christian Science Monitor on September 17, 2015, a series of widespread deaths of Black Americans has caused a widespread protest movement, a call for federal and state investigations, and a move away from practices that unfairly target minorities. While some critics have stated that this creates an unfair bias against police, the organizers of the Safe Harbor Initiative say they hope their message continues to spread so that every officer knows they are supported by the communities that they serve. With this in mind, we ask, how does the Safe Harbor Initiative rhetorically construct support? To answer this question, we turn to Roger Stahl's Why We Support the Troops, Rhetorical Evolutions, first published in the December 2009 Rhetoric and Public Affairs. Stahl's model is ideal because it considers the impact a symbol's history has on its meaning within the context of support rhetoric. We will analyze Stahl's framework, apply it to the Safe Harbor Initiative, and draw critical implications about what Law Street media calls a signal for vigilante support. Stahl argues that the slogan "Support Our Troops" has evolved beyond a simple show of solidarity. Rather, it is often used as a rhetorical weapon, demanding constant and unwavering support, with the implication being that one who does not loudly proclaim their support doesn't possess it. He explains that support the troops rhetoric wields moral legitimacy, even as it seeks to mute anti-war discourse, through two rhetorical functions: dissociation and deflection. First, support the troops rhetoric employs dissociation in order to discipline and correct public outlook on military operations. By creating a fundamental difference between soldier and civilian, the rhetoric distances the interest of the soldier from that of the civilian. The rhetoric then uses this distance as the basis for conflict, that the citizen may somehow undermine the efforts of the soldier. For example, while cloaked in an air of moral superiority, support the troops rhetoric paints dissent. Things like challenging leadership or questioning the ethical cause of an armed conflict as hostile to the interests of the soldier, thereby creating a false dichotomy between soldier and dissenter. With dissociation established, the presence of the yellow ribbon exists to serve as a visual reminder of the rejection of dissent, in order to better support our troops. Second, support the troops rhetoric uses dissociation in order to alter public consciousness. The word troops functions as a focal point, as it implies many rather than one lone soldier, and as a result carries with it many of the cultural ideals we cherish about the military, in what Stahl refers to as the cult of the fallen soldier. For example, the yellow ribbon draws on this in order to become an icon of tragedy. The origins of the ribbon come from an old folktale in which a prisoner asked his wife to tie a yellow ribbon around a tree in their front yard if she wanted him back upon his release from prison. This was then applied to the captive soldier and eventually to all soldiers. The evolution of the ribbon and its inseparable pairing with the support the troops rhetoric seeks to redirect outrage away from policymakers responsible for war to instead drown in the tragedy of the fallen soldier. Stahl's model demonstrates the enormous power an evolved symbol wields in public consciousness. With a firm grip on the model established, we will now analyze the Safe Harbor Initiative's use of dissociation and deflection. First, the Safe Harbor Initiative employs dissociation in order to create a false dichotomy between those with unwavering support for law enforcement and those who have none. In his original post, founder Anthony Velichko describes the symbol as one of appreciation, but also as symbolic backup. He says, "If you are in my neighborhood and mean to harm a member of law enforcement, know that decision may be hazardous to your health, as someone has that officer's back." By juxtaposing appreciation with intent to harm, the Safe Harbor Initiative removes any space for dissent. Anything but outright support is an attack on an officer's body, and thereby an immoral act. Second is deflection, or redirecting outrage away from the source of the conflict. The blue stripe on the curb is a reference to what law enforcement know as the thin blue line. It symbolizes not only the fallen officer, but the delicate line that exists between peaceful society and the chaos that would ensue without enforcement. As Slate of March 28, 2014 explains, the thin blue line is itself an allusion to the thin red line, a British reference to a battle in the Crimean War in which a thin red line of British regulars held their ground and allowed their comrades to retreat to safety. By drawing on the moral legitimacy established in the thin blue line, the Safe Harbor Initiative conditions the image of police conduct, where the struggle is not one of law enforcement policy, but instead of saving the life of the officer. Criticisms regarding police brutality, profiling, discrimination are then drowned out under the weight of the thin blue line. Having analyzed their rhetorical tactics, we can now return to our question. How does the Safe Harbor Initiative rhetorically construct support? The campaign's use of dissociation and deflection allows the symbol of the thin blue line to mute discourse that criticizes police practices. But as a symbol, the blue line only garners support from those who are in on its intended meaning, leading us to two implications: militarization and public space. First, the rhetoric must be considered in terms of the militarization of the civic sphere. Here, the parallels between Support the Troops rhetoric and the Safe Harbor Initiative are not inadvertent. Rather, it seems the initiative invokes the war metaphor deliberately, by using language such as peace, not alone, backup, as if to imply that policing is indeed a battle. As Stahl explains in the model, when it comes to war, support rhetoric is intimately tied to what is known as the firing rate. That is, the willingness of a soldier to pull the trigger on another human being. While historically the decline in soldier hesitation has been accredited to a number of advances in training techniques, Stahl cautions that chief among these was the Army's shift in emphasis, from the traditional kill the enemy philosophy to a newer protect your buddy. In other words, this same shift in emphasis, that is, citizens providing police with backup, can be used to activate the citizenry's collective willingness to pull the trigger, thereby authorizing state violence against their own. And as a result, any magnification of support could further ignite the conflict. Finally, we would be wise to pay special attention to the site of the message, the street curb. As Indra and Cinda Cook explain in the 2011 Journal of Speech, space and place are not blank slates. They are socially constructed and therefore imbued with meaning. So when considered in the context of the initiative's stated message, the choice to use a street curb is ironic. Street curbs are most often public, not private property. They designate where the home or residence ends and the city or county begins. So even if it's never enforced as such, legally the blue stripes are graffiti. In support of the law, the Safe Harbor Initiative breaks the law. As Leon and Leah Cook explain in the 2011 Visual Communication Journal, although graffiti is almost always viewed as subversive, it operates under what is known as the local code, known and understood by residents and enforced by those in power. And while the Safe Harbor Initiative may never be defined as racist by those who paint their street curbs, their blue stripes afford them the privilege to have the last word on the matter. Applying Stahl's rhetorical lens to Velichko's blue curb markings has left us with this. The campaign uses rhetorical tactics to shift public discourse away from police conduct, all while embracing the cult of the fallen officer. The Safe Harbor Initiative, contrary to the words in its name, creates a space fundamentally unsafe for criticism.